Thank you for clicking on this video. It's time for a new series. In this one, we are going to be building a Warmoth short scale base together, step by step. And this one's going to feature some unique features that, to my knowledge, are not available from anyone else. So let's build it together and let's see how it turns out. Let's go. Firstly, I really want to take this opportunity to say thank you to each and one of you for clicking on these videos and watching my videos. Starting a YouTube channel initially was really my way of coping with illness. You know, it's been a long road with medical illness and I really needed a distraction strategy. So that's really how this thing started. But then I really saw the potential of bringing the merits and sonic benefits of short scale bases to bass players who, like me, need to cope and live with certain physical limitations. And it's been such an honor and privilege to watch the subscriber count grow, to watch number of views grow. So I am so thankful for each and one of you who have supported me and this channel. Thanks so much, and I hope you keep watching. All right, on with this series. So, as many of you know, I'm a short scale bass enthusiast, but there are some things that are just not available in a commercially made short scale bass. And that's why I wanted to combine some of my wish list items into a custom Warmoth build. But on top of that, I know, myself included, I don't have lots of fancy tools. I don't have a lot of space to build in, and I don't have any fancy skills or techniques. But I know many of you like to build things. So let's build a bass with minimal tools, minimal need for extra real estate or fancy ventilating systems, and with parts that are pretty easy to find, but still high quality. So in this series, I want to go through step by step exactly what I've done, and then you can watch me finish it. And hopefully the end result won't suck. So all the ordering I did online through the Warmoth website. And you can go to the Warmoth website and have a look at some of the menu options that they had. What I wanted was a short scale 30-inch scale bass in a precision or P style body, but I wanted a few different things. First of all, I wanted a double P setup. On a short scale bass, sometimes the critique is the low E and A strings are a bit on the flabby side and sonically not as tight as it could be. So, in addition to making a double P, I wanted to make a double reverse P. Maybe that will tighten up the lower E and A strings. We're gonna have to find out. So I did all the ordering through the Warmoth website, like I mentioned. The double P configuration was not an on-menu option. So what I did have to do is I did have to email and correspond with customer service at Warmoth. And what I ended up doing is I needed to add a special note at the bottom, more or less kind of going over what I'd already talked about. I wanted a double P configuration, but reverse. Now, because this was an off menu option, there was an additional $65 upcharge for that custom option. Okay, well, this build got shipped to me via UPS, and I'll go through the price breakdown closer to the end. And it came to me in two boxes. Here's the box for the body. And here's the box that the neck got shipped in. I also, along with the body parts, I ordered a bunch of the hardware pots and whatnot that I will also talk about, and those got bundled in these boxes as well. So let me show you the body. Here's the reveal. There you go. So I decided to go with a solid alder body. Got a nice ring to it. Now, I don't really want to stir up the whole tone wood debate. The reason why I went with alder is it's not overly heavy, but not overly light either. It also has pretty even grain to it, and it's relatively easier to stain and work with. And my intention is to stain this body, so that's why I went with alder. And alder is kind of a tried and true Fender style tone wood, so I know what to expect from alder. I decided to not go with a pickguard. So this is a rear route, which was also an additional cost. So here you see double P and reverse P configuration. I had Warmoth pre-drill for a standard 5-hole Fender style bridge. So the bridge holes are already pre-drilled, and the ground wire here is also pre-drilled. I also asked for pre-drilled controls because, again, for this build, I wanted to do as little woodwork as possible because I know a lot of viewers just don't have the shop space or necessarily the skills to do it, or don't want to do it. So one of the purposes of this video is to make the build as accessible as possible. So here, I want this to be a completely passive setup. So I have controls pre-drilled for volume, tone. Now, because of the thickness of the body here, it's very difficult to get a top mount jack. My personal preference is for a top mount jack, but for this one, we ended up going with a side jack just to make the space and layout work. So here's the body. Now the neck came very well packaged as well. And here's the other unique feature about this build. I want a reverse headstock. Now, the reason why I went with a reverse headstock here is not because I want to look cool. I mean, I'm in my mid-40s and I walk with a cane, so how cool can I possibly be? But the main reason here, on a short scale bass, finding strings is more difficult than you think. And more importantly, if you are used to a particular brand or gauge or type of string, it might not come in a short scale string wound length. And I have a dedicated video on short scale strings if you want to check that out. But in short, the string wound length is the distance between the ball and the first taper, or where the silk starts. And you want that after the nut, but you don't want the full gauge, so the full thickness of the string, to wrap around the tuner. And where that becomes a problem is on the low E string, where the tuner would traditionally be right there. So my hope with the reverse headstock on a short scale neck is I can extend that string wound length, because now the E string can travel all this extra distance until there. So I have all that extra room here that I can use full scale strings of any brand, and it, at least based on my preliminary measurements, should fit. And we'll find out practically whether or not that happens or not. So this also can extend to players who down tune, so people who down tune to D or D flat or C, or for people who want to have a BEAD tuned and strung bass with a 130 or 135 low B string on a short scale bass. And finding 5 string sets for a 30-inch scale bass is pretty hard to do. But if you wanted to make this a BEAD strung bass, I think this type of reverse headstock concept should allow us to do it. But we'll find out. So here's the neck. This is a roasted maple neck with a roasted maple fingerboard. And these are standard medium 6105 frets. I had them pre-install a GrafTech nut, and this was pre-slotted for standard EADG strings. So my initial review and thoughts on the neck is it smells fantastic because it's roasted. The figuring is very nice. This nut, in terms of the edges and how well the slots have been cut, in terms of it being in line, so far the nut looks very, very well cut. The fret ends are near perfect. So those of you who've seen my other videos know I'm pretty picky with how my frets are, but these fret ends are beautifully done. So I very briefly kind of loosely assembled things just so we can have an idea of what the assembled bass might look like. And through this B-roll, you can have a better idea of some of the figuring on the alder body, the figuring on the neck, and you can see the top and the bottom. Let's go. All right, let's talk about color and finish. Now, recently I've had a real fascination with blues and teals. Here's a cover on my last solo album, which I love the colors on. My glasses are kind of teal colored. So I have a real fascination with that kind of spectrum of colors. So for this body, I wanted to use water-based stains from Seaman. And the reason why I chose this is, first of all, they have cool colors. The second is because they are water-based and not oil-based, the cleanup is far easier because you can just use soap and water. You don't need mineral spirits or Varsol paint thinner. You don't need to worry about any of that. More importantly is low odor and low VOC. So for people who don't have a dedicated shop space or a ventilated space, you don't need to worry quite so much about the odors and how it can kind of affect people around you. So I wanted to make this bass kind of pop a little bit more. I mean, I love the colors of my other basses, but they're pretty standard. So I wanted to use a kind of a turquoise base. So this is the standard turquoise from the Seaman water-based stains. Now this is a bit light. Another color I like is the azure blue. So that's this one. But what I think at the moment I'm really gravitating towards is a combination of both of them. So if I were to use the turquoise as a base color, and then once that's dry, put the azure blue on top, you get this color. So it has a kind of a nice deeper blue aqua feel and vibe to it. Now, these were just sample scrap cutoffs that I had in my shop. It's hard to know what is going to happen and how well this piece of alder will take the stain. The other issue is alder can have a tendency of taking stain in a somewhat blotchy way. So we'll have to see how well it takes the green base stain coat first, and we'll see how much blue I can actually apply afterwards. But I'm really hoping that the combination color will work well. Now, I'm not sure how these colors are turning out on this camera here, so I'm going to attach a photo right here so you can have a look. Okay, let's talk about the pickups. Perhaps one of the most important components of an electric instrument in terms of the overall tone. For this build, I wanted to kind of steer away from the boutique, pickups because they're not affordable for a lot of players. In all honesty, some of them are fantastic sounding, but a set of pickups that cost $300-400 is kind of unaffordable for a lot of people. So for this build, I decided to go with Tonerider pickups. And in the past year, they came up with a new P pickup wine called the Duke. And this is a slightly harder wound version of their classic P pickup. So reading off the label here, it says, overwound for more low-end response. The Duke is perfect for rock and blues. So I wrote the people at Tonerider and I asked them, how are the mids, are they really scooped out? And their reply was, there is a little bit of, scoop in the mid-range, but really all they wanted to do was to make a hotter, louder pickup compared to the classic P, but not have it be a massive tonal difference. And I like that. The other thing I like is they got back to me very quickly, which, for me, very good customer service. So I'm very excited to hear these Duke pickups from Tonerider. I've never heard them before. I've never tried them in anything else. So maybe I will like them, maybe I won't. We'll find out, but that's what we're going to start with. In terms of tuners for the neck, I went with the Shaler's that were suggested for this short scale Warmoth neck. Now on these necks, they have been, you can get them to pre-drill the stabilizer holes for these Shaler tuners. So that's one of the reasons why I went with these. They're certainly not a cheap option, or I should say they're not an inexpensive option. But so far, they look pretty well made, and by themselves, they turn pretty nicely. But these have two kind of guidance holes, little studs here rather, that slot right into those. Now, in terms of other parts, I ordered as much as I could from Warmoth just to get bundled shipping. So in terms of pots, because I want this to be a passive setup, I don't want to have to deal with batteries and battery boxes. I ended up getting 250K pots from CTS. Now, due to the thickness of the body here, you cannot use standard short pots. So these are longer pots from CTS. You can tell the shaft length there is longer. And then you can adjust how much you want them to poke through by adjusting the set screws there. CTS makes solid pots. That's what I have in the majority of my instruments. So that's what I went with. In terms of the output jack, I went with a standard Switchcraft jack, but to make it work with the side output jack here, it was recommended for me to use the football end jack plate. and I got that from Warmoth. I ended up going with black hardware, so black neck plate, black screws, and to keep the P-base vibe, I went with flat top knobs. In terms of bridge, I previously didn't really like the sonic outcome of the Goto bridges that you can find on the Warmoth site. There's nothing wrong with them. They function perfectly fine. It's a well-made bridge. I just didn't like how it sounded. So my ear tends to prefer pretty plain Jane Fender-looking bent metal bridge. So that's what I got. This one came from True Custom Shop. I think I found this one on eBay for like 20 or 30 US dollars. So that's what I went with. The last little bit of accessories: black string tree, black Dunlop strap locks. These are my favorite strap locks. And from Amazon, I ended up getting pickup riser foam. So there you have it. I'm very excited for this Warmoth double reverse P short scale build. We're going to go through this step by step with you. And thanks for coming on this journey. Thanks so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for the next video in this series, where we're going to prep the body and we're going to stain it. And hopefully the colors turn out good. All right. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.